It's Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs. Let's start the show with Lewis Tennant. Here we go. Guests and interviews that you're looking for with creators, innovators, and so much more. For all episodes and further info, verbalhighs.com is the place to go.
All right, here it is, folks. I just did the penultimate intro for episode 71. I'm putting out 3 episodes today. Triple threat, last day of the year. Get to peak episodage for 2018. Did 50 last year. This will be 22 for this year, making 72 episodes all up. My guest today is an enigma. People have said, you got to get Harry on, I said to Harry, come on. He said, I don't talk to journalists. It's not a very good Harry impersonation, but he said, I don't talk to journalists, and that's fine. And then Harry did come in, and Harry doesn't have an internet footprint related to Harry not talking to journalists. So I got a bit of intel from a gentleman that Harry has been thick as thieves with for years, who did an episode with me, Mr. Andrew Boak of Punk It Up fame. And Andrew gave me a bunch of sort of like early or late teen, early 20s stories, and leading into Harry living in London and so on, to kind of just get me somewhere. I've got to have some modicum of prep for these open conversations. I normally sit with a one Word document page up with some bullets I'd made. So that's all I had. And I was a little bit worried about doing that with anyone, and I actually messaged Harry and said, look, I don't have a lot to go on here. And he said, no, that's fine. Spontaneity is where it's at. And then when we started, just to get into the spontaneity, I went to use the notes from Andrew, and Harry basically said, I think literally I don't want to fucking talk about that. But it's a great chat, you know. I kind of loosely base them on bios, but we just end up talking more general stuff. So if you're wanting if you're wanting me to get into particular bands or artists that Harry dealt with, and you don't think I got Poindexter enough or were prepped enough for that, I was never going to prep for any of that. And then the other side of a character like Harry, who has lived a life, which you'll hear in the episode, is it occurred to me, both beforehand and afterwards, he's not going to tell the best stories anyway, in terms of he isn't going to tell the best stories, but he's not going to tell the best stories, because they're the what goes on tour stories. Anyway, hope you enjoy. Harry wanted me to call him this fucking guy on this episode, but I'm not sure that'll fit on the page. So Harry, I think I'm going to call you Harry. Ladies and gentlemen, and an audience in 1 second with Mr. Harry the Bastard. But firstly, like the show Verbal Highs podcast on Facebook, Verbal Highs on Twitter. Like and subscribe on iTunes. Find me on those other aggregating and playing and streaming services that seem to have found my content, which is great. Have a Happy New Year if you're weirdly listening to this the day it came out. Hope you're enjoying 2019 if you're there. If it's 2028 and this thing's still online, I hope you're enjoying that. It occurs to me that I'm now in my 50s if you're listening then. That's terrifying.
This is Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs. American malt liquor that comes in a 40.
Not here, mate. It's a vitamin E avocado body lotion.
I've seen it down here. It's St. Ides, and it tastes like old man's piss. It's brilliant.
No, that's to be applied liberally to the whole body.
Yeah. Well, St. Ides is to be provided liberally to your liver. So just part of your whole body, I guess.
So here we go. 80 minutes, eh?
80 minutes of bollocking and bullshitting.
I'll get you to...
Fine by me.
That's good.
Are those PSA ones?
What do you mean?
Road PSA ones, these things.
What are they?
Oh, it's all right. Mic stands.
They're I didn't listen to Mr. Dahl, and I bought budget Surplustronics ones. And I think the first thing to go on them is the screws and stuff, but they've lasted 2 years.
That's fine. What do you expect?
Yeah. So, where do we start? Auckland?
Rather not. I got out of here pretty early. And, you know, I mean, what's going on here these days?
Are Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
not a great deal.
Well, there was more going on in the 80s before you left, right?
Kind of. I mean, there's a lot of punk rock and stuff like that, but everyone was just in covers bands.
Yeah.
And then you come back here and it's all covers bands again, and they're doing, the same fucking covers.
Oh, so I'm sure some stuff happened in the middle.
Oh, a little bit, but, very little.
So did the Auckland you returned to not seem dissimilar to the Auckland that you left?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
It's same sort of little scenes and cliques and covers bands. It's
Oh, my guest today is
this fucking guy.
this fucking guy. He played in punk bands in Auckland before moving to the UK in the 80s, where he worked for Rough Trade, a role that saw him then move to New York and then work for probably the largest distributor of dance music in the world, What's Music. He's released 3 mix albums, which were essentially soundtracks to listening sessions at Club H or the front room of his gaff.
Yeah, which was a funny place. It was, it was sort of the place you went to when there was a whole bunch of bars and nightclubs around my area.
Yeah. Manhattan?
Yeah, in Manhattan. I was like right behind the Chelsea Hotel.
Yeah.
So I was basically between where Sid Vicious killed his girlfriend and where Sid Vicious got booked at.
Right.
And the precinct he got booked at. So there's a whole bunch of these nightclubs and all that sort of stuff around there. And, there are certain things that you can't really do in nightclubs or bars or high-end bars and stuff like that you need to go to somebody's house to do.
Yeah.
If you can understand what I'm talking about here without sort of making it too fucking obvious.
Yeah.
So we'd always end up back there, and when the clubs closed or the bars closed, and doing things that you couldn't really do in those places. And
Often the most enjoyable part of the evening.
Yeah. So it was like more of a sort of an after hours and stuff like that. So we should all go back to and have a bit of fun there.
Before you left, you did have a band here, though, the Herco Pilots.
I'd rather not go into that, but it did kind of shape me in a way as we were fiercely independent. Everything was home done and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when I went to London, ended up working for Rough Trade. Everything was independent over there. Yeah. We're doing all these indie records. Then the same thing in New York.
Yeah.
Down here, before I left, it was a bunch of like suits and ties and guys in like fucking pink sweaters who ran these record companies, and they were, they had import licenses to bring a certain amount of stuff in.
Yeah.
But they were more concerned about releasing the best of Bread and Supertramp and the Knack and things like this, and it's just like, well, what the fuck? There's better things going on elsewhere. So, when I ended up in London in this record warehouse, which was, I don't know, 100,000 square feet, maybe 150,000 square feet, full of, I don't know, million records, or maybe 2 million records. None of them had ever been released in New Zealand. No. And they were all fucking good. Yeah. And all these people down here in these pink sweaters and things like that didn't know what the fuck they were. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm in heaven. I'm thinking, fuck you. I'm staying here.
To your credit, you got that juice already. I mean, you'd pressed your own record here, and you had sold stuff out the front of your shows and so on. Yeah. So there was a bunch of you trying to turn that around. Yeah. I'm sure that the Pink Sweater Network would be a global network, wouldn't it?
It is, and it was, and it still is. Yeah. I mean, they're out there. I mean, look at the stuff the major labels are putting out. Would you buy it?
What is it? It's Ed Sheeran. It's pretty much that's it, isn't it?
Ed Sheeran, Ariana Grande. I mean, it'd be a fucking break. Can't he fucking be? Is anybody over the age of 14 buy major records?
Does anyone buy them? They stream them, don't they?
Yeah, I know they stream them. The only thing I see people buying on major labels these days that I would vaguely, the people that I know are reissues.
Yeah. And they've sort of tied that up as it's a bit of a racket the way they do it anyway, isn't it?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, you might as well just bend over and put some sand and some Vaseline, because that's what's going to happen to you. You're going to get fucked.
So we politely skip the Auckland years. You end up, you just know that you have to get overseas. You end up where first?
London.
Yeah.
End up in London. I was going to...
You were squatting there, or?
Oh, you were... Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, break it into places and
Yeah.
squat. I mean, you get them for a year, 2 years before the council come around and kick you out.
Yeah,
And we were out in Squatney Green,
yeah.
as we called it, which is Stepney Green now. And I saw a picture of my old squat, and it's up for sale for about £500,000. What the fuck?
So why were those places empty all that time?
They were council estates.
Right.
So you'd find a small one, like a 1 or 2 bedroom,
Yeah.
and you could be in there forever. Because, they were all families moving in and they needed 4 or 5 bedrooms. When we got chucked out of the first 1 bedroom we had, we got a 5 bedroom and we got thrown out of there sharpish.
But why weren't they being filled up with legit tenants?
Waiting list and council,
Right. So you just slip between the bureaucracy and actually live somewhere for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And you didn't go straight into rough trade, did you? That's such an amazing place to work.
Yeah, I met a friend of mine who I went to school with at a Chills gig.
Yeah.
And he was working there and he said, well, we need some people. Why don't you come along?
Yeah. And what was the first role?
I was working in the warehouse.
Yeah.
Picking orders and all that sort of shit, which is fun because, could you imagine working in a place where everybody's got different coloured hair?
Yeah.
There are 2 tannoys speakers above the stereo with a huge NAD amplifier playing Big Black at full bore every day, like 12 hours a day. It was like Big Black and the Pixies, World Domination Enterprises, Lead Asbestos, every day in and day out.
But you didn't stay on the shop floor.
It wasn't a shop, it was a distributor, it was a warehouse.
I know, I mean proverbially shop floor for years.
No, I got up and I started working in the export department.
Yeah.
So I started working with all these Europeans, looking after the Germans and the French and the Swiss, and then, I sort of ended up dealing with these guys in the States with Tower. They had Tower, I had Important, who turned into RED, and Caroline, which was Branson's company. And, Branson set them up with a Caroline in the UK.
Yeah.
As his way of getting, records across and his own stuff released in the States. And as an import arm for a whole bunch of punk rock and stuff like that. So that's how they evolved. And they evolved into Astral Works and got swallowed up by, the big corporate machine that is Warner Brothers or Sony or just one of those fucking cunts. And, yeah.
And your role was to say, hey, you guys, this will sell in your shop. That'll sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
Not shops, distributors.
Yeah.
So they'd be selling it to, 3,000-4,000 stores.
Yeah. And so that requires a good ear and a good sense for
good ear and a good sense, and plus, knowing what the press is going to pick up on and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one time we were looking at the catalogue, and the Beastie Boys had hit it big.
Yeah.
Right, so we had this one record in the catalogue from SRD, who was still around, and they had the rights to their first EP called Cookie Puss. So, I ring these guys up, and it's like, guys, I've got this Beastie Boys record, the first record they ever did. Would you like something? And they're like, yeah, let me get back to you on that. I ring Caroline, ring Important, Next day, there's a fax on the thing. We'll take 5,000.
Yeah.
We'll take 10,000. Okay. So we get 20,000 of these fucking things pressed. And we have one truck pull up with another truck. And you're just unloading a box of 100, writing on it, Caroline, throw it on one truck. Caroline, throw it on another truck. Or Important, throw it on another truck. 100 a box. That's 100 boxes.
Sold?
Sold. Done.
Yeah. And was that part of them blowing on up in Europe?
Yep.
Yeah.
Blowing on up in the US.
Yeah.
Around the time of, what was it, Run DMC and all that sort of stuff when that really hit.
What are some other big acts of the time that...
Oh, fuck, we had everybody.
Yeah.
Anybody who was anybody. We had Mute 4AD, Rough Trade the Label, other shit like Probe, who was like Half Man, Half Biscuit, the KLF.
Yeah.
We had Big Life, which was Cold Cut, Yaz, The Orb. We had... fuck. I'm trying to think who else. It was a long time ago, but it was at the time that indie shit was really going.
Yeah.
It was it. I mean, you look at the Mute catalogue from about 85 to 80 to 95,
Yeah.
and that was Nick Kill was everybody.
Yeah.
And 4AD at the same time. You got your Pixies, your Throwing Muses, you got your Cocteau Twins, the Small Coil, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Was all coming through us.
And what's the rest of London looking like at the time?
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were geeking every night.
You mentioned in the car that you think it's changed a lot.
Well, it's changed like New York. I mean, it's just gone to a lot of rich people have moved in, bought up all the property and the land, and they don't live there.
That's the bit I didn't say in the car that I'd heard, is that people just snap stuff up and they might be there once a year.
Yeah.
Excellent squatting opportunities.
It is, but there's a lot more security these days.
Yeah. Right. So the role in England lasts a while, and then you decide to get to the States, right?
It's 4 years, yeah. Then I went over to the States for a holiday, and I'm there, took a courier flight over for a week and a bit,
Yeah.
staying with a mate of mine, seeing some customers, and, we got into a lot of bad behaviour in those 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And at the time I was there, the management of Rough Trade was looking at opening an office in New York. So I just put my hand up and said, fuck it, let's do this.
Yeah.
So they said, sure. And within a year, had a visa and went over there, and I was working at the office over there.
Same role.
Pretty much, just doing sales and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, you're an enigma on the internet, so the tales are few and far between.
They should be as well. I don't want anyone kind of behaviour we got into. Christ. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, put it that way. There was a lot of things going on.
Just sing out if you want another one of those.
Yeah, I mean, I was, you had a lot of bands coming over from England.
Yeah.
That I knew through the grapevine.
Yeah.
A lot of bands coming over to New York, I should say, that I knew through the grapevine in England. And, you'd always get a call before they came over for, there are certain things that a lot of musicians need that they can't really take on aeroplanes with them,
yeah,
or go through customs. So
the role, it sounds like it's one of those roles that's just sort of like it's part of one's identity and one's lifestyle. It's not simply about sending 100 records here, some records there.
No, totally not. No.
You're the full service package.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the record company rep or whatever. You're on the.
How many of you in New York when the new office started? Just you?
No. There was. It started out as just 2 people. Then it went to about 6, and it was about 7 when I got there.
Yeah.
And we were there with, we shared the office with 4AD, which was 2 girls. And then, as we got more acts signed up from the UK, things started to blow up a little bit.
Yeah.
So we had some big records coming out. We had Lucinda Williams, Mazzy Star, Butthole Surfers.
So sort of, because Rough Trade would have been the biggest indie label on the planet at that stage, wouldn't it?
Would have been,
yeah. So
biggest gateway to it all, yeah.
Biggest gateway to it all, yeah. So you were kind of that link between the Europe or the British office and America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we do what we could sell. And then we had a great roster at times, and, the office grew and grew and it grew, and we had a good core of people there.
Yeah.
Like a good hardcore bunch of lunatics. And we had the sales manager, and my sales manager, she was a bit of a bitch and they couldn't stand her anymore, so they fired her. And we got this new guy over from Caroline, and he comes in and he's dressed up in a suit and a tie and all that sort of shit for the first week, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy, And then after about a week of being there, I had a friend come in and we went out one Friday afternoon and got shit-faced at lunchtime at the bar around the corner, and come back into work, and there's this guy in his suit and tie, and he's like, come to my office,
Yeah.
So I go into the guy's office and he says, look, you and I are going to have a really big problem here. And I'm like, oh, shit. And he's like, if you're going to go out drinking beers for 3 hours for lunchtime, you better fucking tell me because I want to come.
Yeah.
So, from there on in, that's where the fun begins.
Anointed.
Yes.
So you don't come back throughout that time, eh? Because you've got to pretty much stay in the States.
Yeah, when the company went down, I ended up working with this guy David, who I'd known since England and stuff like that, and I used to hang out with quite a lot in New York, who had a distributor out on Long Island, and I'm there. After Rough Trade went down, I said to him, "Look, will you give me a job?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." So I start working for him one day. It was on a Monday, and then I come back home, and I guess 5 o'clock in the morning, some guy jumped through my window, stuck a knife at my throat and tied me up on the floor and robbed me of everything I had, and I was jumping around my apartment for, like fucking 40 minutes. It's just like, is this worth money? Is this worth money? It's like a home invasion and shit. And from there on, I lost everything, so I couldn't really go back, so I just had to keep working.
Oh, right. I thought you had a visa thing there, but you
visa
got
was gone.
Stripped of all. Oh, that was part of the worldly possessions.
Yeah, that was part of working for Rough Trade. I didn't have a visa. After Rough Trade finished, I didn't have a visa.
But on top of that, some random person jumped in your window in the middle of the night and...
Had nothing.
You had nothing?
Had absolutely nothing. He even cleaned out my bank account. They left a guy at the apartment while he went to the bank account to make sure the number was right.
Fucking hell.
Well, it was hardcore.
Yeah. Late 80s.
Yeah. It would have been 90, 91.
Yeah.
96. I lived in when you first got to New York in those days, most people moved to one area, which was Park Slope.
Yeah.
Because, the rents were cheap and stuff like that. And it was a pretty nice neighbourhood, and I was kind of on the verge of that, like down on Fifth Avenue, which is now mega rents and stuff like that down there because it's all been gentrified. But back then it was like heavy duty Cubans and shit.
Yeah.
Cubans and Puerto Ricans and these guys, and I'd be sleeping at night, and I was on the first floor. And around the 4th of July, these motherfuckers had M80s. You know what an M80 is? It's like a quarter stick of dynamite.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were firecrackers, and they'd throw them up, and they'd land on your fire escape and go bang.
So where does everyone end up, Harry? In London and in New York and cities like this when this happens? Where does all the colour go? Like where does
they start moving out to the suburbs,
right?
Or they start moving to different cities.
Yeah, because I see you post a lot about New York, but I suppose you haven't been back. But you see the changes from from afar. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I mean, there's a book.
How do we reverse it? You can't.
You can't reverse it.
It's the 1% in action, isn't it?
It is. There's one book I'd really recommend that anybody reads. It's called How a Great City Lost Its Soul, about New York, by a guy called Jeremiah Moss.
Yeah. And when was he saying that? What era is that?
Oh, the book's just come out.
Do you want another drink?
Yeah, book's just come out.
Yeah, and what's his
he moved there,
synopsis? He's
a psychoanalyst who moved there in 1994. And, it was I guess back then...
A Freudian take on the fall of New York.
Yeah, back then it was starting to go through its yuppification and gentrification.
Yeah.
And now it's just gotten to high gear. So what was once a city that you moved to get away from all the people you didn't like is now a city where all the people you don't like have gone to and now live. Yeah. So it's just turned into this yuck.
And what's his take on it in the book?
It's the same thing that goes through everything, every suburb, what's happened to it, what's happening to Harlem, what's happening to Chelsea, what's happening to Brooklyn, everything.
Yeah.
And just how Bloomberg, it started off with Giuliani, and then Bloomberg come along and just demolishes it all in favour of his rich friends. And how it's pushing everybody out of that area. So, I mean, who's going to be left working at schools? Who's going to be driving the buses? Who's going to be driving the subways? Where do the cops come from? Yeah.
There's no set of workers.
No.
Right. Bring on the robots.
Yeah, and it's been changed. It's been changed by all these big chain stores, Starbucks, Target. Yeah. Those sort of people coming in. And where are the workers coming from? And it's been replaced by tourist money. Because now in New York, when I was there, I mean, tourists wouldn't come there.
New York?
Well, in the late 80s, it was fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
It was really fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
You went up to Times Square and you'd have a gun put in your face.
Yeah.
Now you go up there, now you get a cell phone, if you look a bit crazy. But it was, it was hard. There were 2,500 murders a year
Yeah.
in the crack epidemic and stuff like that. So now there's maybe 4 million tourists, 5 million a year.
Yeah.
Now there's 70 million a year.
So it's sort of like I'm trying to think. It's like a Disneylandification of a city,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
tourists are tourists in any scene or
Yeah.
city or.
Yeah.
So you got people who invest in all the property hardly reside there, and then a bunch of tourists wandering through with their
Yeah.
phones. I mean, there must still be small pockets of goodness. There is everywhere.
It's getting fewer and far between. Most people I know have, they've left.
Yeah.
They've gone to other places, gone back to like Detroit or Atlanta and places like that.
Yeah.
Miami.
Yeah.
My friend John, he's got a place, and he's had an apartment building built above him or across the street from him, and Rupert Murdoch bought the first, the penthouse of the damn place for 50 million. So now his street's clogged with paparazzi and tourists and stuff like that. And his wife has a photo studio where they redesigned it to do high-end cookery, because there's a lot of food magazines out there,
Yeah.
So they redesigned this whole kitchen so they could have these master chefs come in and just do this sort of stuff. But the rent on that, which is probably maybe 3 times the size of this, is $25,000 a month.
Wow. Right. That's. Yeah. I mean, you got it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what wages are, but that just sounds unobtainable.
Yeah, it's nuts. And I had another guy knew Silverno. I didn't really know him, but he met this guy a few times. A really nice bloke. He had a restaurant downtown called the Silvernos down the bottom of 6th Avenue, and his rent shot up to $41,000 a month. And he just said, "Fuck this."
That's insane. Over 10 grand a week.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of the cooking thing, the smoker you've got.
Gas, mate.
I'm going to move. I'm going to have a generous balcony. What do I buy?
Placemakers.
Placemakers, the hardware.
Or Mitre 10 gas, mate.
Just a gas mate, and choose your flavour of your chips.
Yep.
And then how long do you do the ribs for?
3 hours.
3 hours.
At 107.
And you baste them in something, eh?
Yeah, you just see a dry rub. Look online.
Yeah.
Kansas
Okay.
City dry rub, or a New Orleans dry rub, or a Memphis dry rub.
Do you try different flavours?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Is that a thing you bought? Were you doing that on the balcony over there, or is it? No.
No, I came back here and it's like the food shit.
Yeah.
It's really expensive and it's shit.
I'll have to drop you some fish next time I go fishing. They'll smoke fish out already.
Yeah, I go fishing.
It makes kawa edible.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about promos of tunes or artists, Harry? Like getting something and going? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you're known for having a really fucking good ear. So is there sort of things that turned up back in the day, one copy of or whatever, that you were like...
We used to get white levels of everything.
Yeah.
Because we'd buy a lot. Sometimes we might buy 25 copies of something to try it out for the whole country. Sometimes we'd buy 10,000.
Yeah. But was it your ears first a lot of the time going, okay, this is where we're going to go with this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what sort of things did you end up breaking?
Fucking everything.
Which explains why you've got a good relationship with artists, right? Because I suppose if they know that you were the connect to...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we took everything on,
I heard something about the promo of that Stardust tune, Music Sounds Better With You.
Yeah.
What happened there?
It was never a promo. I think I gave my copy to Mike, our friend Mike in Detroit, who was at Record Time.
Yeah.
But, fuck, that thing blew up.
It really did. It was a certain sound of the era that suddenly it was kind of had a commercial crossover.
Yeah, there's a lot of hype about it and stuff like that. But
It's a great pop tune.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I was dealing direct with Thomas,
Right.
because we were buying all this roulette stuff just straight off him.
Yeah.
None of this virgin shit. And
Yeah.
things. And yeah.
That's the version I've got, the roulette one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so...
They were good cunts to deal with too.
Why do you end up how's the distributor, or how do you end up working closely with the artists like that? Is it just because they know the stuff's shifting, so inevitably you end up in correspondence with them?
Yeah.
Or
Or through the label, and they've got somebody coming over, and it's like, well, can you look after these? Can you look after this guy for me? I was just up in when I was in Barcelona, I was with a bunch of guys from Soma.
Yeah. That Scottish.
Yeah. Hanging out with those guys.
Are they still putting stuff out?
Yeah,
that was a sound for a while.
Yeah, the guys I was with aren't sort of with the label anymore, but we're still a tight bunch.
What's happened to dance music, man?
Bend and Spread. It's gone a bit weird.
That's a good label name.
Bend and Spread. Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's gone a bit weird, isn't it?
It's sort of Stadium Rock's grabbed a hold of it, and sort of its production and sort of its delivery mechanism.
That whole EDM. I
think capitalism's discovered it.
Yeah, that whole EDM thing. I mean, I know some people who made a great deal of money out of it.
Yeah.
And out of that when it sort of broke.
Well, that remix magazine, Tim Finn here, not Tim Finn, our Finn brother Finn, but the remix guy's done exactly that over the years. That they're just the big money-making behemoths. Those parties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you look at somebody like Ben Turner, who used to run Jockey Slut.
Yeah.
I don't even remember Jockey Slut.
I do.
But you know what he does now?
What?
He's Richie's bitch.
What? Richie
Horton.
What does he do for him?
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like Richie's bitch.
That's not a bad role.
No, not a bad role at all.
How does that relate to EDM and the bloating of dance music?
Exactly. But, but that's what some people are doing now.
Yeah.
The whole EDM thing, it's just Dimitri Vegas and like Mike, Calvin Harris.
Well, it's just back to us, talking about the problems of, it's probably oversimplification, but the issue with sort of free market capitalism. Yeah, to me, like I say, it's like the dollar discovered the
SFX comes along and buys up a whole bunch of shit. But these festivals are getting huge overseas.
Yeah.
Even the underground ones, BPM in Portugal, or there's a big one in Mannheim.
There's one in Croatia as well, or somewhere as well. It's a bit more.
That's a bit sort of defected. And Tomorrowland and Electric Daisy. Have you seen fucking Electric Daisy Carnival?
No.
In Vegas?
No, it's in Vegas. There you go.
It's in Vegas. It's like 120,000 people.
Yeah.
And they take over an entire speedway. It's like a NASCAR raceway with fairground rides and all that sort of shit.
So, yeah. Can you hang a Confederate flag in an EDM festival? I don't know.
I don't know. But you know what? If something like that happens, somebody is selling a shit ton of drugs.
Yeah. Was it started? I mean, when did you leave? You left. Would it be? You've been back nearly 10 years now.
Yeah, I left 2009.
Yeah, it was sort of kicking off then, right?
It was.
Yeah,
it was starting to get the stadium potential that it is now.
Oh, shifting back a little, what happened? I mean, for Rough Trade to be so huge, what happened that it folded? What?
Oh, they spent a shit ton of money on a computer system.
No, is that it?
Yeah, like a lot of money on a computer system that didn't work.
Yeah. What was it supposed to do?
Everything. What did it do? Nothing. And we're talking like £1 million in 1990.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of cash.
Yeah. So when did Rough Trade officially?
It's 91.
91.
Yeah.
So all the rest of that time you were with Watts.
Yeah.
And that was a role where you kind of used your European connections and your American connections simultaneously, and you're one of the people responsible for a lot of that European electronic music ending up in the States, right?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And it was going off. It was just starting to go off. I mean, we had all the all that Belgian techno.
Yeah.
We're starting
Tard Helgen Beckno.
Yeah, we're starting to head off, your R&S's, your Music Man.
Joey Beltram and...
Oh, Joey was I love Joey.
Yeah.
All that stuff was going off.
Yeah.
And we were sending a lot of the American stuff back there, like we had all the Detroit labels.
Yeah.
And all these little guys coming up, and, like your house labels like Strictly Rhythm and things like that. We were exporting all the New York and New York house and Detroit techno back to Europe, and then bringing all the European
Yeah.
stuff in.
Yeah. Which, I feel like, for those who don't remember, is even more significant pre-internet, because how else how was I buying tunes here? It was because of people in roles like yourself going, we'll send this amount of that to
Yeah.
this place.
Yeah.
So how do you link up with people as far afield as Belgium and...
It was all done by fax and phone those days.
yeah. But you were the hub to come to by virtue of being Watts.
Yeah, and you'd ring. We get calls every week at a certain time from a distributor in London or a distributor in Germany, and you'd listen to the music down the phone.
Yeah.
They'd have a little microphone and they'd put the needle
Yeah,
on.
like a little gramophone thing coming out of it to make it
you'd
sound a
listen
bit...
to it down the phone.
Yeah.
You'd have a little speakerphone or whatever. You go,
Yeah.
that's good. No, that's shit.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of records coming out in those days, and it got to the stage.
If you say that, I'm just carbon dating this, mid-late 90s?
Yeah, around the mid-90s, we were dealing with maybe 250, 300 releases a week.
Yeah.
By the early or mid-2000s, it was up to about 2,000 a week,
Yeah.
which is a lot of shit to listen to.
It is. And I'd imagine trying to discern, electronic music over a telephone as to which ones to choose and which not.
Yeah, yeah.
How many bars does that take, Harry?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll just play you the middle bit. And then,
I know, what does it sound like? And now it's what? 10,000, 15,000 a week?
At Watts?
No, just coming out now in electronic music.
Yeah.
There's so much shit out there. Look at
But what do you call, being released, like, these days? I mean, you mean someone just uploading a tune from their bedroom onto SoundCloud?
pretty much Bandcamp or whatever.
What do you think about those changes, man? I think, punk origins and all of that, I think being able to just get your creativity out there is great. But I do worry that if you remove a few gatekeepers, the wheat chaff balance becomes...
It has.
Yeah.
It has. And, the gatekeeper now is Facebook likes or Instagram posts and how many likes you get on that. I mean, some of these fucking people, what are you doing? How did you get there?
Yeah.
There are guys that walk around Tomorrowland and stuff like that with tablets, and they get you to vote in the DJ Mag Top 100 poll, and they just virtually push your finger on a button
And you don't even know who...
and
who
walk
the-
away. You
yeah.
don't even know who it is, and that gets them the big gigs.
Right. Or releasing one big record and then suddenly it's expected that you can DJ really proficiently as well,
Yes.
based on a hit.
Yes.
Has there been some version of that throughout history? Probably. It's just more accentuated with technology.
It is. And
I'm not a techno optimist, but I try not to be.
But back in those days, people used to actually play and mix records. Now it's just pre-programmed.
Yeah.
All these big EDM guys is just pre-programming the shit.
Yeah. How did Watts fare when physical music started to wane?
Well,
Are they still going?
No. 4,000 record stores closed down in about 3 years in the States.
Yeah.
So everybody got fucked.
Yeah.
We went out of business. Competition went out of business.
Who was the competition?
Oh, we had two competitions. One called Nemesis, another one called Syntax. And they hung on-
Nemesis is a great name for a company that's competing against you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But everyone went,
Yeah.
you know?
So before you had to come on back to New Zealand, you're probably already thinking about what you were going to do next, because the whole model that your career was built on was sort of changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was offered a gig in Denver, but I'm not going to Denver. You know,
Yeah.
fuck that. Wanted to stay in New York, but there was just nothing around.
Work-wise.
Yeah, no.
So what was in Denver?
A Beatport.
Yeah. So you did ride that change, ending up at Beatport.
No, I didn't end up there.
No.
My friend, he was a big investor in the thing, and he ended up selling it to SFX a few years ago, and he walked out with a good chunk of change.
Yeah.
and they're still at it, but he's just like well away from that sort of shit nowadays.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think well, I guess that's why things like the super gig have taken over, eh? Because there will always be an industry around something that can derive an income, so people just sort of change what they're doing, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's still a hell of a lot of money to be made over, out there spinning and playing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was with some guys in Iceland 2 years ago, and I don't know, they're making maybe 10,000, 20,000 euros a gig.
What was on in Iceland?
Some bad behaviour. As you know, I was up there for a festival called Secret Solstice.
Yeah.
I was invited up by a friend of mine who was headlining a night up there, so we went up there for that and got on it.
What's Iceland like?
Cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cold. It's
Thanks,
rainy.
Harry.
It's cold. It's rainy. It's a weird place.
Sounds like Wellington. I would be right at home.
Actually, it's just like Reykjavik is a lot like Wellington.
Is it really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but colder.
Yeah.
And to get from the airport, Reykjavik airport, into Reykjavik is like driving across the desert road. It's like 50 miles.
Yeah.
It's way the fuck out. You're riding over there, and all you can think of going on in your head is "Immigrant Song" by Led Zeppelin, and you're looking around for pixies and shit. Where are you?
Mainly Icelandic folk, or a lot of people come to this thing.
Icelandic folk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good party.
Not bad,
Yeah.
but cold.
But cold.
But yeah, it was quite fun, and we ended up, because it doesn't, the sun doesn't go down at that time of year. We ended up, you just lose track of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And we ended up at this
More so than usual.
Yeah, more so than usual, and we ended up at this downtown bar with the guy who owned a nightclub up above it, and he set us up in the yard, and we had no idea what time it was, but me and my friend are back to backing DJing on these decks, and all of a sudden we sort of look up, and it's like these Icelandic cops, shut the fuck up. In Icelandic to us, I was like, oh yeah, okay. Well, you got get busted.
Because you try and get away about once a year, eh?
Yeah.
Because you've struggled being back in Auckland, eh?
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I go up there and just have a blowout every year.
What is it? Just that you feel there's not a lot going on here, or
Not a lot going on here at all.
yeah? And is it just an attitude thing as well, or just
Totally.
Yeah. And what's the attitude?
I think people down here have been sold a lie that they're the best in the world at everything,
Really?
and I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
There's so much more going on up there. You just got to go up and have a look.
Yeah. But it's not like the majority of us are insular and stay in New Zealand these days. Maybe you mean a pocket of us.
A large pocket,
Yeah.
but nice.
Maybe it's the ones that are here. The ones that have gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, really? You believe that?
Do you think you'll try and move away again?
Nah, too old. I might do.
I think if you can make it to a rave in Iceland, you're probably not too old to...
No, I mean, I'd like to live somewhere different. I mean, I like Barcelona.
Yeah, nice place.
It's a nice place, but it's getting too gentrified and populated.
Oh, we can't satisfy you anywhere.
No, Berlin's the same. It's
Yeah.
just getting like too fucking hipster and whatever. But there's certain places in those countries out in the world that something's going on, which is good.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether you saw that thing of Mike Banks talking on the Red Bull radio.
That you are Mike Banks.
Yeah. He's going on saying Berlin's over, But the same thing's happening in Detroit.
I would never thought Detroit would gentrify.
It's getting that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They
starting
had a
to.
lot of repairs and so on to do before it even got near there.
There was an awful lot of repairs to do. I mean, I was there for a while. We went there for we did a magazine, Spanish art magazine called
Yeah.
Big, and a friend of mine.
Is this after Watts?
No, it's during what?
During, yeah.
He was a creative guy for a advertising agency, and this Spanish art magazine, anyway, was doing a series on different cities over the world, and they found one creative who lived in that city to do a magazine on it. So we went out there
Is this a magazine that Phil was involved with?
Yeah, Phil was involved with it. Yeah. So we went out there, and it's like, okay, I'm doing the interview. I'm going to hook up all the music side of this because the music out of Detroit's fucking great.
Yeah.
So, we started off with Kevin and Alan Oldham, and then got on to Carl Craig, and then we spent like 3 days with Banks, and then things, that was it. It was fun times.
What are those guys like, man, on a day-to-day kind of basis? Because it's to be quite a sort of closed-off scene sometimes, eh?
No, it's a wonderful place.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful place. But it is, it's dead a certain time of the year, but no, it's happening.
Yeah. Well, you're working with them, writing articles about them for the mag and stuff? Yeah. What, when, 2000s?
That would have been 2000, I think 2004.
For a Spanish art magazine?
Yeah, 2004. So we ended up winning the big award for the magazine because it was that well done. But it would have been 2004.
It was out of Spain, and you were based in New York, New Zealand guy writing about Detroit.
Yeah.
That's a global story after talking about what you think about New Zealand.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was just there at the time, and it's like he knew these guys, and let's go out and meet them, because everyone, all those people out there, I mean, through us at Watts, we'd made a lot of money for them.
Yeah.
And we'd put their music on the world.
Yeah.
So, of course they're going to talk to you. Of course they're going to want to meet you. Because people from Detroit don't really get out of Detroit.
You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that when I was buying a lot of records regularly, that a lot of the American stuff was coming here via Watts, right?
Yeah, totally.
So those guys getting to, like Carl Craig playing in Wellington the first time he did and so on is a direct byproduct of that.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys kind of pushed things globally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want another... No? Okay. What flavour are you rolling?
I got American tobacco.
Does it taste anything like tobacco?
No.
Do you feel like your health's any better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much is a pack of cigarettes now? $30?
My wallet's a lot better.
Yeah.
I get that $2.99 for 30 mil from the States.
Right. Just order it on in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Be interesting to see if Big Tobacco or a similar kind of business tries to take over that whole thing, eh? Well, it's all a little bit too indie at the moment.
It's gonna get taken over. I mean, Marlboro are already like inventing machines to roll joints.
How long do you reckon? How do you reckon the referendum will roll out here? I think despite certain misgivings about New Zealand and New Zealanders, I think that one will get voted in favour. I think it's about what the question is, if it's binding.
I think it'll get voted in favour, but there's still a lot of,
Would it be as simple as should marijuana be legal?
Yeah.
Because it hinges on the question. I mean, how they write the question will really affect...
Yeah. Yeah. Should it be legal? Yes. If people want to smoke pot, fine.
Yeah.
I don't smoke a lot of pot. So it doesn't affect me, and I don't mind seeing people stoned.
No. I think New Zealand as a country is part of a sort of a... places to go if you're that way inclined. It sort of would suit us globally as well. Kiwi buds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a new market. I think it brings in tax dollars, fixes the roads and shit like that.
See, while we're down that track again, when you were talking before about how New York's changed and so on, what do you make of Trump? What do you make of this whole Trump thing, man? Do you think he's going to die, or he's going to be somehow removed, or it's just going to play out till the end of his tenure?
He's going to go to jail.
You reckon?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Do you reckon that he is quietly on some sort of amphetamines to be tweeting at 2-3 in the morning?
I don't know. I don't know for sure, but it does seem plausible.
Yeah, because you can't live on takeaway food and 4 hours sleep and tweet at 3 in the morning as a 70-something-year-old. Yeah. That just doesn't add up.
I have done a lot of drugs. I'll be honest with you on that. I've done a lot of that sort of shit. And I know the symptoms, and he is definitely showing a few of them.
Yeah. I'm no prude either, but it doesn't occur to some people why Trump might be doing it at that time. Oh, but he doesn't drink. I'm like, well, that's irrelevant.
Plus, one of the great things we had going on in New York when I was there, which doesn't really happen these days, are mafia trials.
What does that mean?
You know, we had John Gotti, we had all these big trials of all these fucking hoodlums.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I'm seeing the same shit going on here.
You mean the same behaviour
Totally.
by him? Well, he'd be tied up with them anyway because of the construction racket he was in.
What do you think
He's got to be a mafia.
Yeah, totally. Why do you think he wants to build the wall? Because it's his construction company. It goes in his back pocket.
Yeah. Did you find it? I mean, did you find it baffling or unsurprising, having spent so many years there, that America voted him in?
They hated Hillary.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hatred towards her. So he was the only plausible thing. I mean, but
it'll be an interesting period in history. As I say, like I'm no dedicated follower of politics, but yeah, the main thing I've been pondering is like, how's this going to play out? How's it going to end? What's going to be the conclusion of it? That's the bit that's going to be one of the most interesting bits of the story.
Well, I hope the conclusion of the whole thing is never, ever, ever in your life vote for a rich asshole again.
Yeah.
I mean, look what happened here when that last rich asshole was in power. He just gives all the money to his mates and lines his own pocket. And this guy's doing the same thing. And people out there seem to believe, well, this guy's really fucking rich. He's going to make me rich. No, he's not. He's going to fuck you.
And they blame the whole irony of that a lot of people can't see is they blame their situation on something like immigrants when it's actually those rich people and their actions that have caught. It's you know. Yeah,
I mean, Bloomberg thinking of running. Fuck Bloomberg. Yeah. He fucked New York City.
Yeah. In what way?
He was the one who he rezoned the entire of like Williamsburg and Greenpoint, where I used to live, from light industrial into residential, so he could appease all his rich mates who had land in the area, and got a backhander from that. These guys are setting in, you know, this new guy now, de Blasio and Cuomo, they got this deal going for Amazon to take over a big chunk of land in Long Island City, Queens, which is again across the water from where I used to live. They're paying $70 a square foot.
Right.
Now, I was telling you about my friend who had a restaurant downtown who got squeezed out when he was paying $41,000 a month. That equates to $700 a square foot.
Right, so you see the cream.
Yeah.
But then when's New York had a decent mayor and living memory? I mean, Giuliani is problematic as well.
Giuliani's an asshole.
Yeah.
You know where the best cities are in the States?
Where?
It's the ones with black mayors.
Yeah.
Oh, because it's party time. We used to have David...
Yeah, it's a bit of an oversimplification, but sure.
We used to have David Dinkins, man.
In New York?
Oh, yeah, David Dinkins. That was fun.
Right. Well, he obviously isn't... I don't...
Marion Barry in DC, hell. It's all go.
Right, yeah.
Remember who?
No, I don't.
There was a guy in Detroit, all fun. What was his name? Ray Nagy in New Orleans?
Yeah.
Well, he's in jail now, but that was fun when he was in.
So, why did you end up coming on bet, Harry?
Well, I had an issue with immigration.
Yeah.
And I got popped in Miami. We were out fishing on a boat.
They're looking for illegals on the boat.
No, we're out fishing, and, you know, we drunk like fucking 96 beers.
Yeah. And
this sort of shit, and we'd been, you know, there was a couple of guns on the boat. We'd been shooting these guns off.
Yeah. But
on the way out, you go about, I guess, maybe 2 miles out of Miami Harbour, and there's a guy selling live bait. He's got like a fucking boat out there, and he just scoops his bait out the water and sells it to you as like live bait. But there are all these barrels around him. And this was a time when gas went up, and so somebody dumped all these barrels of gasoline out in the harbour, and they were looking for boats bringing them back in.
Yeah.
And when we came back in, you know...
Oh, so it's just bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And they said, what, can we see your papers, as it were? Yeah.
And, you know, what? If you lie to the feds, you're fucked.
Yeah. So you had to just say, this is the
This is a scam.
This is a scam. I've had 32 beers. Just listen closely.
Yeah.
This is what's going on.
Yeah, it's not really, my passport's not really back at the hotel.
Because
and I don't really have a green card. And they're like,
something
okay,
like you'd been sponsored by, I'm guessing, Rough Trade, and then that had stopped, and then you'd kept working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically I'd overstayed my visa by about 19 years.
But how come you were able to travel during that time?
I only travel around the States.
Only around the States?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I get handcuffed and chucked on this boat and taken...
Whoa, at the end of... Oh, what a weird end to a day.
Yeah, and taken to jail, which was like a federal jail, and locked up in the tank with a whole bunch of Cubans.
You seem pretty resilient, but did it freak you out a bit?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
A wee bit. But, I really hate to say this.
Yeah.
But I'm white.
Yeah.
So, you sort of get a little preferential treatment over there by the government and stuff like that. And, I was processed, ROR'd, went back to New York, got a lawyer, went through the whole thing. Now,
what's ROR?
Released on your own recognizance, which means no bail. You just,
they trust you to do the right thing.
Yeah, you turn up at court, which was fine. I mean, I was going to do that anyway. The guys at customs, the customs officers were fucking great. You're like, you'll be all right. If you need a number, here's my number. You call me, I'll sort you out.
Right.
They're really good about this.
Well, I suppose you'd been there the whole time working, and
Yeah, so I do that. But the funny thing is, I went through immigration court up there, and I guess the immigration court in New York is maybe 25 floors with 8 courtrooms a floor, 9 courtrooms a floor.
Yeah.
I didn't see one Mexican. Everyone's complaining about Mexicans and stuff like that. There wasn't one.
They're all at work.
Yeah. They've got to have, every second courtroom was somebody who spoke Polish, somebody who spoke Mandarin, somebody who spoke this, somebody who spoke that.
Yeah. So what you're saying here is that there wasn't a lot of cases of Mexican...
No.
Yeah.
Now, everyone's going on about Mexicans and stuff like that, and it's like, they're not there.
And then
And New York was a sanctuary city.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the reason New York is a sanctuary city is because, like, back in the day, Al D'Amato, who was a senator there, he and a lot of the guys now receive a lot of money from Jewish causes and from, like, Jewish people.
Yeah.
Because there's so many fucking Israeli illegals in New York. It's not funny.
So you're saying a blind eye's turned?
Oh, yeah, because they're receiving all this money, and there's just so many Israelis there and, like, Eastern European Jews. Go figure.
You would have been a kind of unicorn, right? A New Zealander. They wouldn't deal with many of those.
No, not really.
Yeah. And what was the upshot? You've got 2 weeks to pack up your life?
No, spread it out for 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
What, just the lawyer bargaining for you?
Yeah.
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 And
then in the end, I just said, look, the whole, what do you call it, that whole GFC, global financial crash happened.
Yeah.
New York was turning a place I didn't really want to live. A lot of people I knew were moving out.
Yeah.
So I just said, fuck this.
Yeah.
So I wasn't deported. I got like a voluntary removal order. So that means you just say, okay, I'm going. Which, opens the door to you again to go back.
That was going to be one of my last questions is can you go back there?
Yeah, it opens the door to you to go back after like, X amount of years, stuff like that.
Which I'm sure you've passed by now.
Yeah, I'll have to.
Have you been back?
No, but I will be going back, I think, not this year, next year. Just to catch up with people.
I try and do these chronologically, but I'd like to ask you if you remember hiring a horse costume with Andrew
back in the day.
Boak on Halloween.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
But then Halloween, what do? You dress up as a horse's ass.
Well, no, you had to toss a coin, didn't you, and decide who was going to be the ass, and you lost.
Probably. But there's Halloween. What else do? You dress up as stupid shit. I've got this friend in New York who spends a year doing his Halloween costumes, and he comes up with the best shit.
Starts on the 1st of November, works all the way through.
He does, and he comes up with the best shit, and he's got one, which he did one year, he dressed up as a Yeti, all right? Now, he's kept the costume, and every time there's a blizzard in New York, he puts the costume on again and runs up the street, frightening everybody dressed as this fucking Yeti, and visits all the bars and stuff like that.
I think we might be done, mate. I feel like we've unearthed a few things. We've talked some politics.
We'll talk some bollocks.
We talked Club H at the beginning. That series, actually, that's one last little thing I'll run by you. That series turned into quite a phenomenon, didn't it? The first one did particularly well.
Yeah, we did good.
That sort of led to you actually doing gigs and so on a bit more, eh?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just like a gigantic fuck you.
That's what it said, yeah, the way it was marketed and so on seems to be, yeah. Here's some records I play on my gaff.
Yeah, and it was like, well, okay, these are good records. And the one thing on there which we got right was that Global Communications track.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of people looking for that, and it was out of print. Right?
Yeah.
So we licensed it and threw it on the vinyl.
Yeah.
And so everybody was buying 3 records to get 1.
Yeah.
But hearing another 2 and thinking, fuck, this is good.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we sold 30,000 of that record.
What do you look for? Like, the whole trajectory of those years, as I've said earlier on, is you having an ear. Like, what do you look for, man?
At some stages, you've got to throw your taste out the window.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You've got to look for something you can sell that's going to pay your wages.
Yeah.
Like a DJ Tiesto or a Paul Van Dyke.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, that pays for shit you really like.
Yeah.
That you can ring up somebody and say, hey, look, come on.
I'll slip some of these in as well.
This is good.
Yeah. Yeah. But there must be, at the same time, to keep some kind of mana with the organisation and so on. There must be stuff that's totally out of bounds.
Kind of. But look, I mean, we were dealing with independent stores across the states.
Yeah.
Now, at the time we were dealing with them, all the guys who owned the indie record stores that we were dealing with were either gay, old gay Jewish guys, drug addicts, and fuck-ups.
You got to write a book.
So, you're dealing with this guy. I had this dude in Texas, man. He was just like, in Houston of all places, he was off the fucking planet. And, I'd rung him up one day and he's like, "Hi, Bruce, how are you?" He said, "I'm great, how are you?" And I'm like, "I've got a great new record for you. Tell him the name." And he said, "I've already got it." I'm like, "Bollocks." And he's like, "Oh, goody." And I'm like, "You Americans don't even know what bollocks are." He's like, "Yes, I do. They're balls. And I like them dangling in my mouth when I'm having a wank." This is the fucking guy you're dealing with. This is the sort of people you've got to deal with every fucking day.